Hey guys, it's Matthew here once again with my first video ever on Project Diablo 2. It is a modded version of the classic Diablo 2 Lord of Destruction expansion that has been doing the rounds for quite a while now, and I am finally getting onto it because I figure it's about time. I held off on this thing for a long time because it is the old school graphics that are slightly revamped to make it, a bit more palatable. But it is the old school graphics, and ever since Diablo 2 Resurrected, I think it is, D2R, whatever, came out, I really did struggle to come to terms with ever trying to play D2 in its old form ever again. That said, we've played a lot of RPGs recently. I'm trying to broaden the horizons a bit, and this one's getting a lot of praise. And once that happens, then I think it's about time we try it. And it pretty much lives up to the hype, in my opinion. The biggest detractor is basically the graphics that you might not love because they're just old. But otherwise, once you get over that, it's pretty playable to just ignore that as a facet and still enjoy it for what it is. So, what is it? It is basically Diablo 2, the expansion from 20 years ago, but let's say, what if they kept working on it? What if they kept putting out bigger patches on it and took it further to further heights in Endgame and fixing things up for 2025, basically. So what we're talking about is quality of life. What we're talking about is Endgame. What we're talking about is newer ways to craft and make gear and min-max your character, and some skill rebalancing as well. So this one is pretty good for all of that. It definitely keeps you going beyond just the usual campaign run. What you're seeing here right now is some of the endgame system. It's maps, which is actually one of the things I'm probably more critical on in this game than others. Than other things, I mean. The mapping system is good, that it's an additional thing to do, but I don't really love a lot of the mapping at the moment because it can be pretty, unforgiving with various mob rolls and stuff like that. But there is a lot of good stuff to like in this mod. The stash space is bigger, as you can see. You got an inventory sort of charm system. They just then added this currency stash, which, if you're a long-time D2 fan, probably enough to actually just get you to jump in and play it by itself, because that currency stash is pretty mint condition for runes and all kinds of stacks and stuff. But there's still plenty of just the old school stuff to do as well, like actually going out there and killing the usual shit in hell once you've completed the campaign definitely still pays off. There's reasons to do that too, and it still feels pretty good because there's new loot, there's, updated loot, some new uniques and stuff. There's a loot filter that helps you, sift through a lot of this stuff too. And there's just nicer ways to engage with a lot of this stuff too because of the rebalanced skills and stuff. So currently what you're seeing here is a Vengeance Paladin, and pretty much all melee stuff in this game does have melee splash, so you can play pretty much any of the old skills that you can remember from the original D2, but they'll also be a lot better with some various rebalancing and the like, thanks to just trying to bring everything up to par and make pretty much everything playable, which is pretty good for your first playthrough as well, because you will be able to more or less go in blind, pick something that you like, and should be able to make it work, at least to a certain extent, up to clearing like hell, something like that. But there is, of course, aspirational content. What you're seeing here is my first attempt at any of it, and it is the Uber Ancients. I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. Apparently you can pop all of them and fight them all at once. I think I popped one of them because I'm just I click thing, then I click thing, and then I'm just 1v1ing him. And it's still a pretty tough fight. My character isn't exactly super built for Ubers because there are several Uber fights, and apparently they're pretty damn strong. But yeah, thought I'd give it a go anyway. And then after that, I just decided to re-roll and start up a new character in the form of a poison Dagger Necro. There's some rebalance throughout the campaign as well. As you can see, Bloodraven just absolutely tore me apart. She's one of the strongest things you'll come across early on, but there is plenty of rebalancing overall. For Hell, you'll experience some tougher, bosses and zones, and your skills are going to be pretty different. As you can see, our poison dagger stabby thing is leaving extra AoE gas clouds and stuff that also kind of prolif in a similar way to Viper Strike of the Mamba. So this is supposedly one of the cooler and more satisfying builds in the game right now, and I'm going to go ahead and give that a shot as well. So there is a lot to like about this mod, and there is a lot to like about original Diablo 2. Just what if there was more? And there certainly is more in this one. It just basically kept working on it and fixed a lot of old D2's some of its problems, and then also just expanded on what should have been kept being expanded upon. So plenty of praise to be sung here. Very cool mod. And with that, let me go ahead and just show you what my Paladin looks like if you want to play something kind of similar, and then maybe just show off a bit more of the mod. So here we are on my character, level 89, Mathel Paladin, and yeah, there's lots of stuff I basically still didn't cover throughout the talk about what the mod is and how it is, and that's just more or less stuff you can discover for yourself if you either just go look through the website and see what's happening, or as you're playing, because there's still a lot of things that you might not realize that are particularly there or cool, like all kinds of mercenary rebalancing. You can change your starting town whenever you zone in and out. So we're in Act 4 always, basically, whenever we want to start. There's lots of cool stuff like how you alter your gear, how you craft some maps and stuff, because it's kind of like a crossover between PoE and Diablo 2. So we've got things like corrupting orbs that are a big part of how you enhance your gear late game, etc., etc. There is just a lot to still go into, and for you to discover for yourself, basically. So don't necessarily have to gas it up too much myself. So by all means, check it out or watch someone stream while you're playing, and then pick up on various things as to some of the other cool stuff that can happen in the game. So just to go over quickly what my current character is, it's nothing too crazy. It's, just basically picked up Vengeance and then made a Paladin with it, which, I heard that Vengeance was pretty decent, but it was nerfed, and apparently rightfully so, because it's still very strong. And then I just, went with it and basically played mostly SSF, so let the gear do the talking for me and just, saw what I'd find, and then go ahead and try and build into it a bit more, and it works out well enough that way. You can certainly min-max characters much more if you really want. Go out, trade. It's a pretty bustling economy at the moment, so the season only just started, and there's something like 5,000 to 10,000 people playing, which is pretty damn nice. So you can go out there, you can do lots of trading, you can min-max your character a lot, or you can just try and give it a shot, like kind of SSF like I did. And as I said, there's not really too many wrong choices. With the rebalancing, you can mostly play just about any skill and have a decent amount of success with it, and never really get too stuck. It's still very similar to old D2, where there's some synergies for your leveling and scaling and stuff. But in my case, basically just went with Vengeance. Sacrifice is apparently a really good step towards it, or also its own endgame build, because it has an explosion to it. So I leveled with Zeal into Sacrifice, and then once I got Vengeance, just went full Vengeance ever since then. We then have, all of that. We do have Joust, which is kind of like a gap closer / blink sort of thing. So it's pretty crucial to have at least a point in this one. We then just went into full Conviction, so lots of Conviction levels, which is what helps you deal more damage and break some immunities and have the enemies have less resists, and then just the synergies for those skills. So that's pretty easy, not too hard to build at all. As far as my panel is concerned, basically just trying to get close to block cap on my character by pumping some dex and gear and stuff. Then enough strength to wear stuff, and I could probably cut some strength at this point, and then just vitality as much as you can. So pretty typical D2 sort of character to be built. And then for Vengeance, basically, it's very important to just have lots of flat elemental damage, which you can also use the advanced tab to have a look at all of your stuff. So you can see most of my damage right now is lightning. Do have a decent amount of fire, a little bit of cold and stuff, but most of my damage is lightning. We do have the attack speed breakpoints and stuff. So this advanced character sheet is very useful for seeing where your character's going and what it might be lacking and in need of. So we press 8 to activate that one, just for the record, whatever. Lightsaber's a pretty good weapon for this sort of thing, but you're basically looking for a fast weapon with various procs or damages. There's plenty of new runewords and new uniques and stuff for you to check out that might be, quite a bit more tantalizing, but this is a good starting weapon. And then, yeah, like I said, you're just trying to get flat elemental damage wherever you can, and charms do have quite a lot to do with that as well. You can get a lot of damage coming from charms, so make sure you're picking up, like, elemental damage charms and stuff. If you're going to play this sort of build, because there's lots of different builds, and elemental is not necessarily the way forward with all of them. We do have layer hands for a bit of attack speed. You can corrupt pretty much everything in this game to get either like an additional modifier or more sockets or something like that. So that's why pretty much most of my gear you're going to see is going to be corrupted. Of course, similar to PoE, you could brick your item and lose it entirely, so not everything is always strictly worth corrupting, but usually if it's somewhat of a replaceable item, you do want to corrupt it and see what else you can get on it. So that little red star is what's going to be the corrupted mod. In this case, we're using a Guardian Angel for a bit more defensiveness, and it got faster run walk on it. Then just, picked up a Shaco, got a corrupted one socket onto it, so that's basically a worthless corrupt, but it means that the item didn't completely die and we still have something there. And in this game, cannot be frozen can also be achieved by having 2 half freeze duration rolls throughout your gear, so that's a pretty nice little bit of extra gearing that you can do for your character compared to the base game, because it's otherwise very hard to get cannot be frozen outside of a couple items, and in this case you can do that a lot more flexibly. And then using Dragon Scale for a bunch of extra fire damage and some thickness, though for most of my playthrough I was wearing this shield, which is a shield you can find pretty early on and then upgrade if you really want. It has a lot of flat elemental damage as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it. There's not much else to say. Like, it's still old D2 with a lot of all its old bells and whistles, but then you've got a bunch of extra crap, maps and, rebalanced endgame and rebalanced loot and skills and just a whole bunch of fun shit, let's be real. Yeah, I think it's pretty worth playing. You can get over the graphics thing, which was a big detractor for me to begin with, but can certainly get over it because, I played a lot of D2 back in the day. I love D2, probably my favorite game of all time. It's just that it's a bit outdated for, playing it for long amounts of time in modern day, when especially there's a better alternative of D2R. But that said, this has got some really good work in it and ends up being worth playing, and you can get past the graphics thing. A lot of people even prefer the graphics, so they'll say this sort of look is still their favorite of all the Diablos, and there you go. So more profit to be had for them. But yeah, not sure what else to say. I think that's about it. Like, I'm just pretty much a glazing video of this whole thing. Unfortunately, it's not super profitable to be like sitting here and streaming this thing because there's not that much hype for it on Twitch, but it was a lot of fun to play. I'll do, a couple characters, maybe even another one while waiting for, PoE to come back in some fashion. Yeah, that'll just be pure, enjoyment on my own behalf. Trying to just do a bit of something I want to do, and we'll move on when we move on, but it's probably something I'm going to be looking at to play in the future as more seasons show up and more updates and stuff. This is season 11, so they've already had a lot of development and seasons and updates over the past few years on this thing, so by all means there's plenty more to go, and it's just one, if you get into, you can keep an eye on for the future, and yeah, add it to your ARPG cycle and list. So with that, Project D2, I believe we're called, and I'll have a link for you, and you do need the original CD key for Classic D2 and LOD, which you can still buy off the Blizzard website, but it's fucking hard to kind of find how to do it. They'll show you how to do it as well, but yeah, it's a little bit convoluted. You do still need the old CD keys and stuff to be able to play this thing. Doesn't cost super large amounts of money though, if you want to give it a shot, and I do recommend it. So with that, yep, that's all. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.